the console tier 2 season is coming to its end. We're in the final stretch now, 3 rounds to go, and we are here for the Canadian Grand Prix. I'd say I'm your host because I'm the one streaming the thing, Cockcast, and alongside me tonight, I have a co-com that I've not actually done any commentary with for a very, very long time. I'm alongside Jamie Jackson Callisto. Good evening, Jamie. How are we?
Hello, mate. I'm doing very well. I'm very much excited to see these guys, the top end of league racers, race once more. Some of these guys, me and you have commentated over in the past. That was a very, very long time ago, like you say. But we're about to see some epic racing around the streets of Montreal.
Indeed, we are. And, well, we're just getting underway at the moment for qualifying. We've got drivers on their first runs, on their first attempts of this circuit. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve, a Canadian track that has caught the attention of hearts and minds throughout the years in Formula One. There are many magical moments that happen here. It comes at an early point in the season, so a little bit too early for drivers to be thinking about championships, but we still have championship-defining moments here. Think of the Wall of Champions, the final corner, which has claimed so many. Think of Canada 2011, one of the most insane races ever, and hopefully tonight we get a similar sort of action. George Ansell's going to come around the final couple of corners. I think he's the first one to set a time. I could be wrong. I am wrong. AGK Racing 108.1 and George Ansell 108.279. But yeah, iconic track and one that I'm sure the drivers will be blessed to be racing around this evening.
Yeah, I'd wait for you to mention 2011. That was an absolutely excellent race. Tier 6 yesterday, I was commentating over with Harrison. It was absolutely bucketing it down. There was so much rain. So if we get another experience like that tonight, hopefully we don't get a 4-hour race like we did in 2011, but we certainly will get a lot of action with that. A lot of drivers coming across the line with AGK Racing leading away for a provisional pole time of 1 minute 8.190, 1,000th ahead of Lifeboat in P2 in the McLaren. As we've still got drivers coming up to line as the other McLaren of Niall Guillot. He does a 1 minute 18.0. That weren't a flying lap for certain. We've got a couple more drivers coming down the back straight. I wonder if any of them are on a lap. I don't believe so at this stage, but there's a lot of drivers still yet to put a time in. But everyone within apart from Niall, in a couple temps of each other so far.
Yeah, pretty decent start, pretty close, especially the top 5, 6, 7 at the moment. They are within at least a tenth of the driver ahead. Jordan DHL is coming up to the line. I think he's the next one that's going to set his first banker lap around this circuit if he decides to go through the final corner. Indeed, he does, trying to keep it incredibly close to the curbing there. It's so easy to make a mistake in that final chicane, and Jordan DHL across the line into 9th place, 108.985. So I'll be happy to get into the 08s. AGK Racing at the lower end of the McTimmy across the line. That is not a competitive lap time. That must be preparation for an outlap. Simbrooks, I believe, had a 109 that he has invalidated. Max van der Geest, he invalidated on his lap too. The next one to set his challenger is going to be XPG Flame. I think Niall Guillot was improving by 10 seconds. He did improve by 9.9 seconds on that previous lap, but it was invalid, so it's not going to be an improvement. McTimmy, he's improving in the first sector. XPG Flame is in the third, so we're going to watch on board with the Aston Martin as he heads up to the final couple of corners. Keeping it very tight to the wall, may have even brushed it there, and he's going to head into the pits. Yes, indeed he is. So this is not his competitive time. Lafitte, he is in the second sector. A little bit of a wobble, I think I've just caught there. Manluck, he's pushing as well in the second sector. So with 12 minutes left on the clock, everybody's looking to get their first times in and get some decent times in. Some are out on their second, so it's a bit of a staggered session so far. But yeah, 108.190 is the benchmark at the moment. I think 107s is going to be the target for the man who takes that pole position. And, well, the target won't be where McTimmy is at the moment, which is smack bang in the middle in P7.
Yeah, and then Lafitte goes across the line with a 1 minute 8.4 set, the exact same time as ET8 Lawrence and the Williams on their first flying laps. But like you say, we're already seeing a split in the field, with half the grid already setting their times and the other half just going around to set theirs now. So this puts everyone at a bit of an offset in terms of confidence and track time, because some drivers who are already going out for their second flying lap, such as TF10, AGK Racing, and Lifeboat, both starting their second laps now. Meanwhile, people like Typical, who's coming round to the final chicane. No, that's not him. That's one of the Alpines. Sorry. But there's a couple of drivers like Typical who haven't set a flying lap yet, and it's very difficult around here to set a good time, especially with how easy it is to cut a corner, get a bit of and get an invalidation. It's one of the easiest tracks to do that. So if you could, it's make or break these laps. You really want to push the edge of that white line, push over the boundary if you can, but you don't want to step too far, because otherwise you're just going to lose your time, especially in these early part of the session. You really need that banker. If you don't have that banker, you're not going to have any confidence come the latter half of the session if you've already invalidated. Coming up to the final chicane now is Alpha Kevin in the Mercedes. He's going through the final chicane up to the line. AJK goes fastest once more, improves on his personal best, and Kevin goes fast to P2 in the Mercedes with a 1 minute 8 dead, but he's a good just over a tenth off the RB.
Yeah, it would have been pole position for Alpha Kevin if it wasn't for AGK Alpha Kevin, who is well known for not being very good at qualifying, or self-reflection anyway, not very good at qualifying. So on up into third place now. It was second, but George Ansell sets the second time into the 107s. Nassim has crashed at the final corner. He has become the first victim of the Wall of Champions, and the kick sour will be starting from a high of P12, but you'd think he's going to go down from that. So really not what Nassim would have wanted to do. And, well, 108.6 is going to be where he peaks. We're going to watch FRT Typical come round the next few corners and come round the final sector to set what will be his first lap time, if he keeps this valid and if he keeps this on the circuit. I believe that was Finbob there going 114.8. So time to find for him. Typical is going to come through the final corner, tapping the Wall of Champions, but across the line he's going to come, and it's going to be a 109.014. Not what he would have wanted, and he goes last of those drivers who have set their runs. Simbarox, he's not on a push lap anymore because he's just invalidated, so he's not going for it. Yasir Saki has invalidated as well. Bobbitts is into the pit, and it looks like most of the drivers are preparing for that all-important final run.
Yeah, and I've just looked down at the bottom of the table. Our championship leader in Max in the RB is on another invalid lap. He's set up to go one more run if he has the fuel for it. His ERS is certainly ready, but I don't believe he has the fuel, if anything. Maybe? Yeah, actually it's okay. But anyway, the RB is about to start his flying lap. If you wouldn't mind, Concast, I'm going to go for a commentary lap of his, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
So going through the first couple of corners now, keeping it nice and tidy through there, just clipping the curb of turn 2 as we go up towards turn 3 now. Through there, cutting the corners as much as you physically can, getting as close to that outside wall without brushing it. Into sector 1, 18.9, very nice run through there. Gets a bit of a lock-up on the entry to the following chicane. However, is continuing on fairly nicely as we go down the back straight, DRS enabled, into the penultimate chicane of the lap. Still got a fair bit of it to go as we go up towards the hairpin. It goes 40.4 in the first two sectors now combined. Lock up once more. The RB is not settled in the front end. Had a bit of a lock in the rears as well there as we go down this main straight, this back straight now towards the final chicane. Can the Wall of Champion up towards the Wall of Champions, where it has claimed so many and won it already today. Massive amounts of oversteer there by the RB, and Max is not going to be happy with that lap despite it being P4. There's a couple mistakes in there and is just about a tenth and a half off his teammate. Not his best run. He certainly will be pushing the boundaries even more, but certainly a good lap to put him up there with the rest of them.
Somehow he was able to drag that up into 108.0. Somehow he's still got time to find in that lap, and that is a demonstration of the pace that Max van der Geest has. The bridesmaid is what I called him last time. He was last time I commentated over him racing in Britain when he took his first victory of this season after a consistent start. Ever since then, he has he's kept his grasp on that championship lead. He won in Netherlands and he took second again in Hungary. He is yet to fall off the podium at any point this season. The lowest he fell was, well, it was America. I believe that was the Vegas race where he finished third. And he's going to be hoping for the same sort of thing today. But fourth on the grid is not where he would have wanted to start from, especially as there's time to find in these laps. AGK was improving by a tenth and a half, but he came into the pits. George Ansel will be the next of those front runners so far to come across the line. And I think we could be seeing a few new names jump to the top of the field. You think of the likes of Manlike down in P13. He's second in the championship. Up there goes, who was that actually going up there? I think that might have been Lifebout going in with a 107.9, becoming the third driver there. George Ansel is going to come up to the line. He was improving in the first two sectors. He has not improved in the third. Just a little bit down. 0.015 seconds is what he is down on his time by Oksu. Is going to come around the final couple of corners. The next man up to the line, and the Alpine will be hoping to put on a good performance. Tier 2 is his target for next season, and so he's going to try and demonstrate how well he can perform. Manlike was able to, well, throw himself into contention for a Tier 2 seat because of how he performed in those races. Oksu has been given the opportunity, and a 108.8, 181, sixth place of all the runs so far. That's a pretty decent lap time. That's a pretty decent demonstration of his ability. Niall Keogh is the next one, I think, who's come across the line to set a lap. 108.213, and he's up into 8th place. So all the drivers coming in. The final runs are being prepared for, and we will be seeing these times decrease even more.
Yeah, just the note on Niall. He has only started the lap now. He is currently going through sector 2, nearly 2 tenths up on his own personal best. Right now, that would put him right in the mix with the likes of his teammate Lifeboat and Alpha Kevin in the Mercedes. He's now got the ERS on as he goes down towards the chicane. Can Niall get his way into that front running group? He's got us so close in terms of lap time, and he's brushed the wall there on the exit of the Wall of Champions. He's very lucky to get away with that, but he goes just over a tenth quicker, and a 1 minute 8 point dead puts himself behind our championship leader in the RB. The McLaren doing very nicely there, but has now got to get himself rebuilt up and ready for another run in just a few minutes time, as a couple drivers are coming round to potentially finish their laps. Finn Bob has invalidated, so I don't know who else. Typical is not doing a lap currently. Is the RB, that's Max on a outlap, so we're just trying to find a couple people who I think everyone is really just getting themselves prepared or on the early stages. I think it'll be Sim Barracks in the Aston Martin, who, never mind, he's really far down in his ERS, he will not be either. So these drivers are really going to have to either cut it fine to get into that pit lane, change a set of tyres, or just reboot their ERS. One thing the Aston Martin's doing is going to go to the pit lane. He's got 2 minutes 50 left to go. He's going to be very much cutting it tight. But it's just, it's so difficult to get a lap done around here with the walls, with the track limits, that if you make these last runs are ever crucial because you need to push at 100%, but you've got to have a bit of restraint, because if you go just that one bit too far over that white line, you will go get invalidated, and that is not what you want to be seeing. If you're the likes further down the order, if you're the ones further up the top, you'll be okay with that, but you're not. But you will hope that everyone else behind you doesn't improve as much as what probably would happen due to track evolution.
Yeah, the times will come down towards the end of the session, and it all comes down to this. Max van der Geest will be the first one to set his final lap. He's probably going to come across some traffic, which isn't going to stop him on the track, but it will have a mental effect. The ghosting will mean that he can't quite see some of his breaking points. And so this could be a bad decision from him to come out this early. The championship leader needs a lap here if he's going to have a comfortable ride onto his 8th podium in 8 races. And at the moment, Max van der Geest, I mean, it's looking like an all right lap as he's going to come across the split time just before the hairpin to go into the final sector. We will see how he does as XPG Flame decides that he is not going to improve on his lap or any lap at all, as he will start from last place. Max van der Geest now 200th of an improvement. The overall championship leader, by the way, he is the leader in terms of points across any championship, excluding World. So that is just a demonstration of how dominant he's been this season and how much of a surprise this is as he throws himself into the final corner. The Wall of Champions claims the champion of champions. At the moment, he is the leader of them all. But today, he will be starting from a height of 5th place. And we will see as all the drivers below him look to set their times. The only ones that won't be able to is Nassim and Flame, who have retired from the session. I don't think Typical is going to be able to make it round for another lap. So he is another one that will not be improving on his time. Just have a look. Bobberts isn't going to improve as well. So Max van der Geest is going to start from a height of P16. You'd think he'd start from higher than that, but we will have to wait and see. But not good for Bobberts, for Typical. But everyone else will be looking at that with glee. They will have one less competitor to fight with an AGK Racing, where he's improved by 500ths in the first sector. The man on top at the moment looks to establish his lead even more as the checkered flag is waved. Alpha Kevin will not be improving on his 4th position. He will not be improving on a 108.081. Nor will Timmy. He won't be improving on a 108.3. More times will be set over the next few seconds as AGK now coming around the final couple of corners. Bobberts retires from the session. As to be expected, he will not improve from P17. So will Typical. He will start from P16. There's yellow flags out. Not sure why, but AGK Racing is going to come across the line and cement his place at the top. An improvement by a 10th and some change. A 107.816 is what everyone needs to improve upon. Niall Gio's not improved. Lifebout isn't going to improve either. Oxu's going to come up to the line the next one to set a time, but it's not going to be any improvement. So the track evolution has not been taken advantage of by any of these drivers, and Yasasaki becomes the latest to crash into the Wall of Champions. He was improving by a 10th and a half. It would have seen him jump into that battle for 7th place, but instead he will start from P13. That is everybody having set their qualifying laps, and it's AGK Racing on top.
An excellent lap by the RB, has sat on top for the very much most part of the session, as he'll have such good, such amazing confidence heading into the race, having over a 10th over your rivals in a tier that is so close on pace. But I just want to touch on our championship leader and 2nd place man like Max, despite having that crash, has not dropped a position. So that P5, he will remain. However, man-like, I did notice in those final moments, had run out of fuel. He was unable to set a time in that final last little peak of track evolution and to start in P10. And already at a deficit in terms of points and trying to get Max in the championship, has now lost out even more and potentially will be a championship deciding qualifying if points go Max's way tonight.
Yeah, it will be a good fight for this championship lead, despite the fact that Max van der Geest has looked so good on top. Man, like 30 points behind. And, well, those two, you've barely been able to shake them off the podium. Man, like only slipping in Singapore and in the Netherlands. So, with 3 rounds to go in the season, this is Man Like's opportunity to take. But if you have a look at this, at the weather conditions, we forget sometimes that here around Canada it could get very, very rainy. We're not going to get this weather conditions because it's going to stay on random. We're going to have a lobby restart, and the 5 lights are out. Simbarox and XPG Flame both getting drive-through penalties. 4 drivers already retiring, and there goes. I think that was Flame driving Canada as he usually would and bottling it straight into the wall. You've got McTimmy and Niall Gito leading the race, Lafiti in third. McTimmy has barreled into the wall. Niall is just taking this as another time trial lap. So is man like XPG Flame, somehow still alive. He's got many penalties. How many is that now? It doesn't say because it's a drive-through.
He's won the penalty championship, that's for certain.
I'm sure he has. I'm actually... I was going to have a look. Never mind. They ruined it. But hopefully I can look at the race director at the end of that. But man like will be hoping that he's going to be able to repeat that P1 that he's just picked up in this session. I find it unlikely that this is any comparative to anything that he's going to be able to do tonight. But yeah, congratulations to man like. You've won the first race of this evening. The first of two. This one doesn't count towards a championship. I wish it did. That would be great. But yeah, XPG's Flame definitely winning the penalty run, and it looked like I reckon he's got over a minute. You know.
He got 26 seconds plus that drive through, so he could certainly be over that. But whatever is your case, I just want to quickly touch on once more the championship actually for Manlike and Max is if Max wins tonight, Manlike will need, if Manlike wants to stay in his championship hunt, he will need to finish 8th place or higher, I believe, if I'm right. I'm just checking myself now. 7th place or higher in this race. Race to even keep his championship hopes remotely alive. So, but if Max does not win this race, the championship will continue to Austria at the very least, because he won't be able to get enough points to make it too far out of Manlike's reach mathematically.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to be able to take advantage of that 30-point championship lead and extend it here tonight in Canada. Possibly take that title away. By the way, just to confirm, on the lighter side of things, XPG Flame did pick up over a minute. It was 1 minute and 6 seconds that he was able to take in Canada Sector 1. I don't even know how they would demonstrate that on the thing, and also the drive-through as well. So it would have been probably equated to about 1 minute 36, which is impressive. But yeah, as we were saying, back to what we're supposed to be talking about. Yeah, Max van der Geest can seal the championship with a victory here, and well, I think it might only be a victory. Oh no, if Manlike is able to get up there, it will only be a victory. That is enough. If he's able to stay in the points, that is Manlike, and I'm sure he will be able to. Bear in mind, by the way, last season he was in tier 4, so the improvement that he's done to be one of the quickest drivers on console is impressive. He's not the only one. As I mentioned, Oxu, he's going to be wanting. He does want to take that full-time seat in tier 2 for next season. He's obviously he's obviously got his sights set on that championship. He's not the only one. Looking forward to season 20, whether it's on this game or next game. I'm sure we'll have a number of drivers looking for that championship, but at the moment it is 2 men who have their eyes set on this lead, and it's Max van der Geest and Manlike. They will be starting though from the middle of the pack, so it's an opportunity for somebody else maybe to take advantage. We saw AGK take that pole position. He is down in P23 in the standings, having raced just twice this season, 7th in China and a DNF in Kota. So as I said, some different drivers are going to be up at the top tonight.
Yeah, I think just a quick touch on, because I just thought Max and AJK are teammates. I'm actually going to have a look because they got them as in constructors standings. While they are leading, yes, they're only leading by 14 points over Alpha Kevin and Manlike in the Mercedes, and 18 points over Lifeboat and Niall in the McLaren. So heading into the final 3 races, that constructors is certainly up to grabs if anyone's interested. But I will. It's going to be absolutely. That's not. So we've got 2 championships still very much constructors still very much alive, and a drivers which can be sealed today if Max van der Geest can get the points for it, or if Manlike can keep his gap under 50 points. We'll soon find out. We've got, as we go into the lobby, to get ready for the Canadian Grand Prix for Tier 2.
Yeah, now is the time where the tension really builds up, and now is the time where I ask about race predictions. Now I always get these horribly wrong, so I'm gonna hand this one over to you to start with. You can throw out your blunder, and then I will make it even worse.
Right. Well, so obviously you've with the pace from qualifying from AGK, you've got to really put him out doubt. You can't really doubt his opportunity at victory. However, I would, considering the consistency of his teammate Max van der Geest, I wouldn't put it past him. He's to win this week. But you've got so many different drivers. You've had, I'll just count it now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different drivers take victory so far, and it's anyone's game. They're all so close on pace, but if anything, AGK's most likely got the win in the bag in pace. But if there's a late race safety car and there's any sort of issue, I would not leave Max van der Geest out of this outfit for a win yet. I think it's really between them two, because if Max did not have that crash, he would have been very much a lot closer to his teammate.
Yeah, I don't think he's the only one. For example, Yasasaki was going to be up there in the battle for the middle of the top 10. So there is drivers looking to prove that they are actually quick enough to be right up the top. The time is ticking down. It's 7:34 on the clock at the moment, and we've just got a few more moments until Console Tier 2 gets underway for the 8th time in this season. And, well, also failed to mention the first time in 2025. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. It's been a while. It's been a while.
It has indeed. It's not actually the first week of 2025, but the second. We wouldn't have started on the 3rd of the new year. But yeah, there we go. It's a new year, where the season will end in January. So we haven't got long to go. This is the final month of season 19, and it's been an incredible season. But we are going to go to the 5 red lights for the Canadian Grand Prix. It's lights. And it's action. AGK Racing gets an incredible start. George Ansell is going to come under pressure from Lifeboat into turn number 1. Down the inside goes the McLaren, and he's going to click onto this position, clip into P2, unless George Ansell is able to take the inside line. He's not, as he's under pressure from Alpha Kevin. He's ghosting, but P3 is secured. He's dropped, though, from his start. No, Guillaume's had a horrible time there. That was somebody going up in the air in the background. I think it might have been Yasasaki. And there is our first virtual safety car of this evening, courtesy of the Alpine. And I believe Minotaur as well got caught up in that one. Yeah, he doesn't have a front wing. Neither of them do. And I'm pretty sure I saw one of them going up in the air there. So yeah, first virtual safety car of the race. And we've not even made it through one clean lap.
Yeah, that was very, very chaotic start. You had about 1 million cars trying to go into one there. But AGK off the start, like you say, incredible start. He had no contest from anyone behind like Lifeboat and George Ansell. They were fighting into turn 1. He had a very much clear road for it. So AGK doing everything he needed to off the line there. It already starting to see a little bit of field spread in terms of the top 4 because of all the chaos that happened, but the VSC does not close that back up, so we'll be seeing everyone go green again very shortly. 4 drivers into the pits, make that 6. A lot of drivers have damage to their front wing, potentially side pods and underfloor if they weren't that careful, but it is really going to change things. Green flag once more as we get racing once more for lap 2. AGK leads the way ahead of Lifeboat. George Ansell in P3. Kevin in P4, and there's a bit of a gap of 1.7 seconds to the Haas of Lafitte in P5. Going So going down this back straight now, can AGK hold on against Lifeboat? He was very much, he's very much still within DRS. Yeah, and we have DRS enabled now. It does open on 1 lap after the green, 1 lap after the start instead of 2. So this is perfect opportunity for the McLaren as we go down the back straight towards the chicane. Where does the McLaren go? Can he get close enough? He's actually got more pressure from the Red Bull of George Ansell behind. He's very much closer. Manlike has made his way past Lafitte in P5, and the top 4 are pulling away bit by bit. And Manlike is in a very good position right now with his championship rival down in 15th. This is a perfect storm for the Mercedes. He's gained, his championship rival Max has lost.
Yeah, I was trying to say, but I muted myself. That
I did realise. I just got to carry on.
Yeah, Max van der Geest, one of those drivers coming into the pits with damage. He is the championship leader, but he will come under pressure now from Manlike. He's in 5th place, but he doesn't have DRS on Alpha Kevin ahead. I don't know if the teammates are going to try to work together to fight for that. Niall Gio as well, dropping all the way down to P15 with those issues. All of the drivers that did pit on lap 1 came in. A 4 at front. Wing Changer McTimmy, I believe, as well, has just done exactly the same on that last lap. Lifeboat is going to have the DRS on AGK as they head down the back straight and as they head down the main straight as well. It's a double dose, and if you're able to hook up the final couple of corners perfectly, then it's going to be all up for you. And it's all up for Lifeboat at the moment. It's coming up trumps for the McLaren. He's into the lead of the race, and AGK isn't going to have the DRS down the straight. He's not going to be able to take be able to take it to the McLaren at the moment, and he is going to stick behind for another lap. Lap 4 of this race, Manlike, the gap is increasing between himself and Alpha Kevin. It's now 3 seconds, and it's only increasing. So the battle for P5 is well and truly on. He's going to want more, but gaining up to 20 points behind Max van der Geest is, well, that'll be a successful weekend. He's going to want more, though. He's going to want that full 25 to gain up to just 5 behind Max van der Geest as they head to the final 2 rounds of this season. But now he's just got to look forward. He's got to go and pressure his teammate Alpha Kevin just ahead of him. Max van der Geest, though, is not out of this one. He's 12.7 seconds behind typical, and he's finding time as well. So the RB is not out of this one. Keep an eye on that at the moment. Lawrence is, well, he's ghosted. Okay, he's back ahead of Lafitte now, and they're staying ahead of him as well. He's side by side. They were side by side, but Lafitte tucks back in. He doesn't want to go for a move in the final corner, and there we go. They're just going to sit there 5, 6, and 7 man like Lawrence and Lafitte, and it's a train all the way down to P13. So any of these drivers could come up, try to pressure Manlike at the top, but at the moment the top 4 are, well, they're in a huge lead at the top.
Yeah, they've really benefited from the collisions and just having pure pace. They drivers behind them from 5th downwards have been battling, so they haven't really been able to do anything of the sort of catching. As there's 3 groups, the top group of 4 that have just been able to get away. The middle group that were kind of caught up in everything, but they got away without damage, and the rest of them who all had to pit at the end of lap 1. But Manlike now is coming under pressure once more from ETA Lawrence in the Williams. Can the Mercedes, who locks up quite severely there on the entry into the hairpin, this is going to put him under even more pressure from the Williams. Can Lawrence get by? He's going to get DRS. No DRS for Manlike. As we go down the straight, ERS enabled for both of them, I would assume. As we go down towards the chicane, and Lawrence flies by him. There's a bit of a battling behind with Bobbitt and Oxco. There was a bit of contact there as well as they met in the middle as they're going into the breaking point. They both come away unscathed for now. But Lawrence taking advantage of the Mercedes massive lockup and taking away his P5. This is the opposite of what the Mercedes and Manlike want, considering his championship rival is 11.6 seconds behind the next running car and is out of the points. So we're just gonna have to he's just gonna have to get on with his race now and hope there is some way he can get back through this field. Meanwhile, the top 4 are sitting line astern. Lifeboat continues to lead. AGK in P2 with John Jansel P3 and the Mercedes of Alpha Kevin in P4. Massive lockups, and Kevin's just getting a smoke screen in the top, up the top 3 in front. So we're going to go down the straight now. Can AGK make any sort of move, or will he want to make any sort of move on the McLaren as we go down towards the chicane? Can he make anything? No, he just sits behind that little bit longer as we go on to lap 7 of the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yeah, those top 4 sitting together pretty well. They are just gaining time on those behind. They won't mind this at all. And I think that's why, especially Alpha Kevin and George Ansel are happy just to sit behind in P3 and P4 as Lifeboat and AGK. They're only switching at the moment due to that DRS, but I'm sure that will change as we get further on into this race. Whether these top 4, though, are together towards the end of this race is another question that is yet to be answered. Safety cars and chaos it's just a part and parcel of console tier 2, and we haven't seen much chaos so far. The only ones that we've seen really are the drivers crashing into the Wall of Champions. We haven't had any of those so far, not that we've seen on broadcast anyway. McTimmy may have been into the Wall of Champions, who knows, but those drivers are, well, they're catching up now. Max van der Geest under 10 seconds behind FRT, typical. So those mediums working at the moment, but for how much longer? AGK is going to pull closer to Lifeboat around the outside of him. Is he going to try and lunge into the final corner? He is, because Lifeboat pulls out of it and AGK retakes the lead of the race. Manlike makes his way back past Lawrence, and someone at some point is going to need to try and take a stranglehold of this battle from 5th, now down to 11th as Flame and Typical have dropped out of the DRS. Someone is going to have to take this battle by the throat and just move up. George Ansel, by the way, 3-second time penalty. That is huge for the Red Bull. That is something that might mean that he will drop out of that podium contention if the top 4 stay as they are. Manlike, though, has gained 3/10 in that first sector, just demonstrating that he is still there and he is still up for a fight this evening. Lap 8 of this Grand Prix. These top 4 are close together. Nassim picks up a 3-second time penalty. Lafiti picks up another one on the last lap as he drops off now from Lawrence. 1.1 seconds. He won't get DRS down the back straight, and presumably because of that won't get it down the main straight as well. This could be where the gaps start to form. This could be where the drivers break away into their own little battles. And Manlike, who's gained another 2/10 on Alpha Kevin on that last lap, he's going to be looking for a battle ahead of him. Lifebout has the DRS on AGK once again down the straight, but he's happy just to sit behind. So lap 9 now of this Grand Prix. AGK, Lifebout, George Ansel now with a 3-second, and Alpha Kevin still the top 4, but they might be coming under threat.
Yeah, the threat of Manlike and the group behind looming large, as Lawrence and Manlike start to pull away a little bit more. Lafitte seems to be slightly rattled by that penalty, because he's certainly starting to drop back from the Mercedes and Williams in front. George Ansel, though, has had a crucial penalty, because being the first of your group to get a penalty, one of the first of the whole entire field, no less, will really have an effect, because you're already on the back foot in terms of you've got to have a 3 seconds. You're not really racing the drivers around you any longer, because these drivers are all going to have no penalties at the moment. They might get a penalty later on, but you cannot at this stage afford any more warnings by the from the Red Bull as we go down the back straight towards the chicane. An easy point to get a warning is that chicane there, and it is just so simple to go over that white line, and you just get a wall. That wall, you look at a warning, you think, oh, it's just a warning. You get 2, all of a sudden you're 1 away from a 3-second time penalty, and these drivers are not, and are like so closely matched, and they're so highly skilled that getting a penalty with this lot is basically race ending and race changing, because you've got to really struggle, because most of the other drivers will not get penalties early on. And Nassim retires from the session in the pit lane, so we continue on as normal, but the Sauber has called it a day after a 3-second and damage on the first lap. But it's not George Ansel needs to just get their head down and try and keep up with this group like he has been and not fall behind like Lafitte is starting to do with the drivers around him after getting that penalty.
Yeah, it'll threaten you because you'll feel as though you're maybe pushing a little bit too hard. You're maybe not as quick as the other drivers in your battle, and so you'll drop off. And I think that's what's happened to Lafitte, and that's why he's dropped down to P9 at the moment. Though George Ansell hasn't felt that pressure. Lawrence moves ahead of man like Nassim leaves the session as he has retired from it. So really not the Kick Sauber's day, as he first crashed in qualifying and now retired from the race. Another Kick Sauber, though, looking to move forward is Finn Bob, who's watched Jordan DHL make his way past Lafitte, and he has decided that it's going to be his turn very soon, almost pushing Lafitte through turn number 1 and trying to pressure him as they head through the first sector, right on the rear of him, taking the better lines through the chicane and heading to the inside. Huge lunge, but Finn Bob makes it work. Slide on the exit, though, means that Lafitte can come back into it, and he will retake that P10. But for how much longer? Finn Bob just waiting in behind, and you'd think that now he's going to wait for that DRS straight to make that move, is he? Or is he going to wait instead for the hairpin? He's going to wait for that straight, and he's just going to get past in a very boring way. That's the way that they get past now. In the higher tiers, at least, they get past with the boring overtakes just like this, as Finn Bob's going to get past with DRS on Lafitte, who's giving up a good fight, but now he does back out. Bobberts picks up 3 seconds. Typical makes his way past Flame into P12. And yeah, the top 4 still continuing, building that gap to Lawrence. Now put 4.4 seconds and increasing. But lap 12 of 35. We're almost halfway through this race now. I'd say we're probably about third, actually, through this race. And AGK and Lifebout look like they're not going to be threatened at all, even by George Ansell and Alpha Kevin, who look as though they're just trying to fight to stay in this one.
Yeah, at the moment, they're looking like they're not the pacier of the top 4, sitting behind, and they're starting to lose pace to AGK Racing and Lifebout, who may be able to conserve their title a little bit more because they're not pushing as hard in terms of their own pure pace, so they may be able to keep their tyres in check. But AGK, with that lock into the hairpin, certainly will not be keeping that front left in check for much longer. DRS down straight goes the McLaren and takes the position once more as we go through before the chicane. He'll have DRS on exit as well because of these stupid double DRS zones that they should really get rid of. But we won't go into that. But Lifebout is going to maintain the lead and keep the lead on his end, hope he holds it for the following 20 or so laps. But he won't be like that. It's so hard to come across and that's a bit of a mistake from AGK, but it's so hard to pull away on this game that, like you say, DRS is probably the easiest to overtake because you're never gonna because it's so much easier nowadays. So TF10 AGK Racing has dropped back by over a second after a couple mistakes in sector 1. Does the RB manage to keep himself within DRS after having an excellent chicane? He's a 9/10 out, just sitting outside it. This is going to allow George Ansell to get involved. That's another lock-up there from AGK. He's really struggling with that final that hairpin there as we go down the straight now. He is currently sitting on that boundary. 1 second. Yes, he will have DRS, but if George Ansell makes any sort of move and have to go side by side into turn 1, that could be game, set, match. Massive amounts of oversteer by the RB. That's giving up position to George Ansell. And that is P2 now gone on track, we should mention, because George Ansell's penalty. But that is really put a blocker between Lifebout and the RB. So very, 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 a lot of struggle there from a driver who had supreme pace in qualifying. He must be running some sort of qualifying, more qualifying back orientated setup, because his tyre, his back end is kind of getting here, there, and everywhere as we go throughout the laps.
Yeah, and it's not a surprise that he is, as he picks up 3 seconds worth of penalties, completely cancelling out George Ansell's, and now Alpha Kevin will be into this one. But yeah, AGK wouldn't be a surprise if he did just go for a qualifying setup, as he will want to take the headlines for taking that qualifying And he hasn't raced against these guys all year. He doesn't know how quick they are race pace. He only raced in the first 2 rounds of the season. And so, he didn't get anything particularly good as well. He got P7 and then he didn't finish in Kota. So it's not been his season in terms of driving so far. So he would have wanted to just take that pole position, to know that he is really able to be up there. And it did look as though he was setting up for qualifying, as he was able, to go into the 1.7s, 0.8s. And he would have been the only driver to be able to do that as well. Alpha Kevin is now waiting in the wings. He's got 2 drivers ahead of him with penalties. He knows he doesn't need to make these overtakes if he doesn't want to. The only overtake he needs to make is the one on Lifeboat in front, in P1, in the McLaren. And he's got 20 laps to do just that. He's got 1 pit stop to do just that. And this is the sort of time where they start thinking about it. They won't go yet for those pit stops, but instead they will start thinking about it. It'll be about maybe lap 20 where they consider coming in from these tyres. By the way, Max van der Geest, he has gained still on those mediums, but very, very, it's dropped off. It's tapered. That's the pace on the mediums. It has really faded away, and now is only 5 seconds behind Flame, as opposed to the 3 seconds a lap he was gaining before. So Max van der Geest, not his day. Niall Gio, Simba Rocks, Yasisaki, and Minotaur, not their days. And it really ended after the first couple of corners. McTimmy lasted a little bit longer, but he was pretty much out of it a couple of laps. Well, I think he was actually pitted. I think he actually pitted on lap 2, so he was just the lap after that. Niall Gio coming into the pit. Interesting strategy here. Is he going onto a new set of the medium compound of tyre? I think he will be. Oh, no, he's not. He's going onto the hards. He's going onto a new set of hards. They will last 19 laps, and you reckon they would, with decent pace as well. There's moves being made. Jordan DHL past Bobbert and past Manlike, who's had some sort of issue, and he has dropped massively down the order. He's dropped all the way down to P9. So the 2 championship leaders, it's really not their day, as they might actually not get any points. Not sure what's actually... Maybe it's a pedal issue for Manlike, but he has stopped almost on the circuit. He's let Flame and Typical through. He's dropped to P13, and he's still not going as quick as you'd think he would. Don't know what's happened to Manlike, but it's, the championship leaders are set to pick up no points. But in good news, it's set to continue to the next round at the very least. Bobbert's into the pits on lap 15, 17 even on this Grand Prix after 15 laps of being on those hards. He switches over to a set of the medium compound of tyre. Manlike has come into the pits. He's retired from the session. I'd quite like to know what's happened there for himself, and I'm sure that will become apparent in the Discord chat in a bit, so I'll keep an eye on that for you. But at the moment, all we need to know is that one of the championship leaders is out of contention, and Max van der Geest is looking as though he's not going to be in contention for points.
Yeah, that was absolutely heartbreaking for the Mercedes, who looked like he could claw back some of that deficit and put himself in that magical 25-point window, race win window for the final 2 races. But unfortunately, Lady Lux had her say, and now Manlike is out of this race. Lifeboat continues to lead the way. George Ansel and AJK remaining P2 and 3 as buffers for Alpha Kevin between him and Lifeboat. He needs to get by. The 2 in front of him were not looking as confident in the last couple of laps compared to Lifeboat, allowing him to slow up even more and manage his pace slightly more, as AGK dropping to 3rd, not being able to get past George Ansel since. But can Alpha Kevin get his way by? He's pretty much stuck to that RB's rear wing. As we go down the back straight, can Alpha Kevin get anywhere near AGK? He's not, unfortunately. He had a poor exit off the chicane and has to just sit behind and watch the RB try and get past the Red Bull, who have the same amount of pens, who ultimately, if it stays like this, drop behind the Mercedes come the end of the race, and is not giving himself a chance to get by that McLaren. As we continue on now down this DRS straight, can the Red Bull or the RB, or the Mercedes get by any one of the drivers in front of them, not towards down the first set of DRS, when they get a second dose of it down the main straight, can George Ansell go for any sort of move? Or is he just managing? He looks like he might just be managing now, getting to the end of his stint, which we are certainly coming to now. There is a yellow flag that is for an Alpine of Yasisaki, who has retired in the pit lane and is now back out on track, because that works. But now the Alpine is the third retirement of the race. He got in the way slightly of the drivers of the top four, but it didn't make too much of a difference to them as we go down the back straight once more. Can George Ansell get close enough? He can't. AGK sits behind him, and Kevin just sits line astern as we go down the back towards the hairpin one more time.
Yeah, and DRS is going to be available for all of the drivers apart from Lifebout. And that means that George Ansell will be able to close in. But is he going to be able to close in enough? I'm not sure he will be, as he's 5 tenths behind. Now it's down to 4. Now it's down to 3. And it really is not going to be enough. This is the main DRS straight, as AGK has greater straight line speed than Lifebout and George Ansell. And so he's able to close in with that DRS, whereas George Ansell isn't able to take that much of an advantage. So that could play into his hands at the end of this race. I will just check the race director to see how many warnings as Alpha Kevin makes his way past AGK in turn number 2. Shame I missed that, but oh well. Alpha Kevin has actually picked up 3 warnings. So whatever happens next, I think he will pick up a penalty. Lifebout, 1 warning and an invalidated lap time. So yeah, just 1 warning apiece. Well, 1 warning for Lifebout, 3 warnings for Alpha Kevin. Not really sure how that works, but the Mercedes is surely going to get a penalty in the next few laps if he runs off the circuit one more time. And so I thought that was him popping up there at Simbarox. That would have been great timing if it was Alpha Kevin. But the top 4 are so close together. George Ansell and AGK, they will stay in this one because they will surely know that a penalty is just around the corner for one of the other 2. If they make a small mistake in the final corner, it's a great place for them to make a small mistake. It's a common place for them to make a small mistake, as it's very, very hard not to invalidate. But that may just be me, as all the drivers in that top 4 are going to come into the pits. They're not even going to traverse the final corner. They're just going to head in, and the mediums are going to be bolted on. As well.
Sorry to crush this, sorry to cut in there, but ETA Lawrence has been hit round by the driver behind him of Oxco, and that's given him a full set of front wing damage, a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane to boot. He's out, he's just decided to retire. He's not happy with that. He'd be absolutely fuming. He was running in 5th place, doing absolutely amazingly, and unfortunately for him, Oxco has come hit him round coming into the pit lane and gave him a full set of front wing damage. Sorry for cutting in there, but that is absolutely heartbreaking for Law Williams, who was looking to have an almighty race.
Absolutely. I mean, fair enough that you cut in there, because I did see briefly, I did cut to Lawrence, and he, well, I saw him backwards in the final corner. But yeah, that is the danger of having that pit entry there. It's that those drivers could do a mistake like that very, very easily. And that's what's happened. Oxcu will be looking to cover his blushes, and he'll be looking to gain as much as he can over the rest of the race, because surely a penalty is incoming. At the moment, he's looking to pressure Jordan DHL. By the way, Lifebout and the top group came out 1.4 seconds behind Finbob, so they're basically just going to be battling for the lead anyway in the next couple of laps, surely, because Finbob, yeah, there we go, he comes into the pits, and the top 4 are the top 4 once again. Otsku is right behind Jordan DHL. Don't come into the pits this lap. And not another driver out of contention. He isn't. And he stays behind the Haas for now. Is he going to gain into turn number 1? Not quite enough to make a move. And so the Alpine is going to stick behind the top 4, you'd think, are going to get their elbows out a little bit more over the next few laps. And I think we're going to see some more moves as Lawrence, there we go, he leaves the session. Niall Guillot with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, with pretty much an invisible race down in P11 after lap 1 contact. But to be fair, 7 lap hold hard. That's not easy to set a fastest lap on. And I think that's going to be taken off him in the next few laps. As Alpha Kevin, I said he was on the verge of picking up a penalty. And there we go. 3 seconds means that Lifebout, if he doesn't make a mistake, is on for an easy victory. But a mistake has been drawn out of him, and George Ansell is unable to take advantage. But that shows that the McLaren can be vulnerable sometimes, and that will give hope to the three behind him that now have 3 seconds worth of penalties. But Lifebout, he will try to stay on the track, keep it clean, and you'd think that this is his race to lose now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thing is with racers like these guys, as they go side by side into turn one, Ansel, Kevin, as we go through the first couple corners, and George Ansel tries to defend as hard as he possibly can. They're still side by side as we go 2 and 3 and 4. They're going to continue on, and that's given the position to Kevin, who almost lost out on George had an absolutely amazing defence, but Kevin managed to sweep around the outside, which turned to the inside, and the Mercedes is through once more. Lifebout here. I was going to say this, Lifebout, even though he has not got the penalty, he can relax himself a bit. Even if he doesn't want to win on track, even if he doesn't need to win on track, he'll want to win on track. He'll want to have that. He'll have that racer mindset of, I want to win, and have no doubters say I only won because I only got this penalty. The McLaren will want this win on track. So he's going to fight as hard as ever. Also, if he lets any of them through, if he starts fighting for any others, they're going to be causing him much more problems. And there's going to be a bit of a side-by-side action between George Ansel and Alpha Kevin once more as the Red Bull finds his way back by. But it's not going to be just for P2 at the moment. He's going to look for a move into P1. But the McLaren outbreaks the Red Bull and keeps his position temporarily. Can the McLaren hold on? Because he does not look nearly as comfortable leading this race as he once did when he on the hards. It's only just over 11 laps to go.
Yeah, just over 10 laps to go. And we've got a race on our hands now for that podium for P1. And you think that those with 3-second penalties are still going to fight as hard as they possibly can, because at the end of the day, they are hoping for a Lifebout penalty for something like that. But there we go. AGK almost outbreaking himself going into Alpha Kevin. But he manages to stay out of it. The top four continue on. 7 seconds ahead of Otsku now, who's under pressure from Jordan DHL. There was a lock-up into the hairpin for the Alpine, and Jordan DHL unable to take advantage now as we head on to lap 25 of this Grand Prix. Wobble on the exit of the final corner, but for Lifebout, but he's able to stay ahead. Jordan DHL with that DRS does make it past into P5, and he is on for a good points haul. Lafiti back past Niall Gio into P10, an FRT typical, by the way, the standout driver in the top 10 at the moment. He's got 24 laps on those hards, so you'd think that he's probably going to drop down, but fair play to the Williams driver as Otsku picks up 3 seconds, and there goes another driver out of this race in the pit lane. It's Simbarox down, and he will finish in P16. So the grid is narrowing. It's almost as if this is like a qualifying session. We've knocked out the drivers in Q1, and we have all of those in Q2 remaining, and Lifebout leads the way.
Yeah, Lifebout seems to have steadied his pace slightly more now, as he's managed to defend a little bit easier in the previous lap or so. But George Ansel is coming at him. He's got DRS. He will want to get through, because he knows that if he doesn't, he's going to have more pressure from the drivers behind, because he needs to get that 3-second gap. If Lifebout does not get a penalty, he needs to get by and find a way by. But the McLaren is doing everything necessary at this point to keep hold of his lead. The longer he does, the harder it is for these three drivers to get away. He needs to hope that he doesn't have any more penalties as well, because otherwise the McLaren, he doesn't get any penalties as well, because that McLaren has had that advantage for the last few laps or so over all three drivers, let alone over George Ansel since lap 8. This is crucial for the Red Bull. He needs to find a way by as the Red RB is looking for a move on the Mercedes. He backs out of that one very quickly, but we're going to continue on now down towards the hairpin. Can the McLaren defend once more? It seems they're a bit closer. Massive lock up there from the Red Bull. He goes almost straight into the back of the McLaren. Very lucky to get away with that one, but this is going to open him up from a poor exit from the Mercedes. However, the DRS on the McLaren is certainly going to help. They're going to go into the corner down towards the chicane. Nothing happens here. The McLaren extends his lead just a tad before we go down across the line to start lap 27. And yet again, the McLaren just sits ahead, and they all sit line astern.
It looks like he just has the edge over everyone else on that straight line speed. And I think that could be where this race is won by the Lifebout. But we could see a mistake made. We saw one a couple of laps ago into the hairpin. And that is realistically the only way that anyone is going to get through in the last 8 laps of this Grand Prix. It's going to be a mistake from Lifebout. And, well, George Ansell will have to be there to take advantage. He wasn't last time. And he will have to be... He'll have to be there and ready to make a move. Alpha Kevin, by the way, he hasn't made many moves in this race so far. The only one he's made in the last, 20-odd laps is on AGK. And we missed it. That was my fault. But we missed the overtake. Alpha Kevin onto the podium. And he will want to get another move done. Not necessarily because it's on broadcast, but that would help as well. He closed into George Ansell. The straight line speed of the drivers in 3rd and 4th at the moment appears to be superior to those ahead. Lifebout moves across to cover off George Ansell. Alpha Kevin looks to the inside, stays behind. AGK had a poor exit out of the final corner, which is why he wasn't able to pressure and capitalise on Alpha Kevin, maybe compromising himself for the sake of getting past George Ansell. But the top 4 still remain in formation. But you get the sense this is going to change very, very soon. Alpha Kevin keeps getting closer and closer to George Ansell. And George Ansell keeps getting closer and closer to Lifebout. He almost made it under 3/10 in those corners there. He's quicker in the corners, but Lifebout is quicker down the straights. This is going to be a tense one. This will come down to where the setups are, what the setups are for. And I think at the moment, Lifebout appears to have the edge. But George Ansell closer than ever. Alpha Kevin closer than ever. And AGK still waiting in the wings. The top 4 will switch soon.
Yeah, Lifebout is all just waiting, biding their time for the latter part of this race. But the top 3 behind Lifebout cannot afford to wait too long because they need to get that 3-second gap from him to Lifebout, or just because they cannot continge on a bit of hope that the McLaren might get a penalty, and they're just sitting behind and they're just waiting for to make a move. Meanwhile, Max van der Geest has got a bye on the McLaren of Niall Geart. He moves his way up to P9. Also, top 8 of 8 from 8 different teams. That is impressive. We're going so with 4 of them all fighting for top 4, all fighting for the race win. Considering how close they have been since lap 1, they have not left each other's either in front of being in front of them or in their rearview mirrors. They have not left each other's sight all race, and it's going to continue like that for the remaining few laps. Alpha Kevin has lost a little bit of time to the Red Bull before immediately taking it back up. George Ansell has dropped a couple attempts compared to his previous run, so this could be the opening for the 2 behind, as the gap has opened slightly. But Lifebout has got a bit of clearance before they jump into the chicane. And once more, there's a bit of more confidence from the McLaren compared to the other 2. Here comes the Mercedes now. Is he going to make a move? Or does the Red Bull defend? The Red Bull goes to the inside to defend after a very late move there before the braking point. However, he is able to keep it clean and therefore defend his position just that little bit longer. As we go through now, this end of rest of Sector 1. Can the Red Bull continue to defend, and can he recatch Lifebout? He does not want to let him get too far out of his reach. We're on lap 30 of 35, and he's all at this point. This has probably been the biggest gap that it has been since probably about lap 8 when AGK had his massive snaps. And now we're going to continue up towards the hairpin once more. Does George get ahead of Lifebout, or will he get overtaken by one of the 2 behind him first?
Yeah, it's a case of who is going to blink first. And at the moment, it's no one. No one is blinking. Everyone has their eyes set on the car ahead. The only one that doesn't is Lifebout, as he stays in the lead of this race. The top 3 are closer than they ever have been, so a move will be made down this main straight. Is it George Ansel or Alpha Kevin? Alpha Kevin pulls to the inside. George Ansel moves to the inside of Lifebout, but it looks as though he was just trying to cover off Alpha Kevin. And whatever it was that he was trying to do, it has worked. The Red Bull stays ahead of the Mercedes, and George Ansel stays ahead of Alpha Kevin. But now the defensive move means that there is now a gap 0.6 between Lifebout and George Ansel. And now that he's going to have to try and break it down all over again. And Alpha Kevin, he is going to try to get past on the next lap and use that momentum to close that gap himself. It's each man for himself here in Console Tier 4. And with 4 laps to go, a winner, at least on track, is yet to be decided.
Yeah, at the moment it's very, very close between these guys. And even though Lifebout doesn't have that penalty, it could still be looming large. He might have 2 warnings. All he needs to do is make one more mistake and go over that white line just a tad little bit too much. But George Ansel is running out of laps. Alpha Kevin is running out of laps. AGK is certainly running out of laps, being in P4, to try and get ahead of Lifebout, who really is absolutely on a very good chance of winning this race. Meanwhile, I'll take a note to the other man without a penalty, Max van der Geest, our championship leader. He's in P8. He's currently could get into P7 here on penalties. Even without penalties, he's looking to catch the Sauber at a very quick rate. The championship leader is going to extend his lead after that one incident, considering he was so far behind the points. The next driver in front, let alone points. Being in P8 is a very good drive from the RB. But we'll refocus our attention back to this battle for the race lead. George Ansel had a very, very poor run in those last couple of corners. This has allowed Alpha Kevin to get closer. And meanwhile, there's a dive bomb there from AGK. Down the inside for P3. Can he make the move stick? No, he doesn't. Alpha Kevin gets the run and defends his position just about. But there's a hell load of tyre smoke there as we go down towards the final, down the hairpin. And now down towards the final chicane. Can anyone make any sort of moves? We've got 3 laps to go, guys. This is getting intense as we go down towards the first chicane. Can Lifebout is well clear at this stage. George Ansel is trying desperately to get closer. There is a retirement from XBG Flame. He's, I believe, retired on track at the hairpin. This won't cause a safety car or a VSC. It's too late in the day for that to happen. Lafitte has a 3 seconds more of time penalties, and now is even more trouble from behind. But there's been now a gap opened up, the largest gap we have seen all race for the race lead. Lifebout is now over a second ahead of George Ansel.
He is indeed, and I think George Ansel is unable to get that DRS down this straight. We will see as the rear wings open across this line here, and it looks as though his is staying well and truly shut. This is the opportunity that Alpha Kevin and AGK have been waiting for over the last couple of laps, over the last 30 odd laps. And now as we head on to the penultimate one, Alpha Kevin gets his best opportunity to make a move. It's to the inside, switching to the outside. Ansel moves across, covers off the middle line. And so Alpha Kevin goes and moves away. George Ansel still stays in the lead of this one. Jordan DHL makes his way past Oxcu. They are fighting very, very hard for that P5. Alpha Kevin staying just behind George Ansel. And you think that now it comes into a thought of DRS chicken. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want the position because he knows that Ansel isn't going to have the DRS. And he doesn't want to shaft himself over by losing 7/10 to the drivers behind or something along those lines. Or whatever it is where you don't have DRS. He won't want to give himself that predicament. And DRS is available once again. Is he going to make this move, or is he going to let it all come down to this straight next lap? We will see. He is going to open his DRS flap now. So is AGK, who, by the way, only 3/10 behind. Alpha Kevin makes the move to the inside of George Ansel, hoping that AGK makes his way through as well. He does not. But Alpha Kevin is within 5/10 of Lifebout. This is going to be much closer than we even thought possible. AGK holding right to the rear of George Ansel, maybe going to the inside line at turn number 2. He isn't, but now 5/10 between Lifebound and Alpha Kevin. This is not over as we are on now the final lap of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, it is absolutely not over, especially for those second, third, and fourth positions. While Lifebound still doesn't have a penalty, these guys will want to win on track no matter what. They don't care about the penalties. They want to just win on track to have that moral victory. As Alpha Kevin is getting closer and closer to the McLaren of Lifebound, but he's going to have to come under pressure from the Red Bull and the RB behind him as we go down the straight towards the hairpin. Can either of them make a move on the Mercedes? Can the Mercedes make a move on Lifebound as we go? Even though it won't benefit him in the final race results, it may benefit him in confidence. Down straight we go for the final time of this race towards the chicane. Can Alpha Kevin make a move? He does. He takes the lead towards the final chicane, so he will take the win on track. However, Lifeboat will win the Canadian Grand Prix on penalties for Tier 2, ahead of Kevin, ahead of George Ansell, ahead of ATK Racing. Oxco has made a move into the final chicane, ahead of Jordan. He will take P5 away from the Haas driver. Excellent stuff there in the dying moments of the race from the Alpine. And that means, unfortunately, he'll drop to P6 with Max van der Geest getting ahead on penalties. An excellent recovery from our championship leader, who puts a further 10 points between him and man like, extending that to 40 points. So then that is Van der Geest in P5, P6 for Alton, P7 for Jordan DHL, P8 for Niall Gear, Finn Bob in P9 with Lafitte rounding out the top 10 with Ears Fever Roberts, typical McTimmy and more Minotaur being the final finishers of the race.
What a race that was. Alpha Kevin, I mean, he was waiting just in P4. And, I mean, it's great. It is great to see Alpha Kevin up there at the top because he had such a managed race. He was so good at managing that race. And the Mercedes came out on top, on track at least. But off track, it was taken by the man who dominated this one. He was the only one in that top 4 group without a penalty. And for Lifebout, it was a thoroughly well-deserved victory. And I presume he's going to be able to keep it. We'll have to see in the steward's room. But I didn't see anything from that man that that would have seen him take a penalty. And so the McLaren is there to celebrate in style. He takes victory from third on the grid ahead of Alpha Kevin. George Ansell in third and AGK Racing in fourth. The top 4 in qualifying. The top 4 in the race. Max van der Geest, by the way, no penalty means that he jumps up to P5. So what looked like an awful race for him turns out to almost seal his championship. Otsku in P6, Jordan DHL in P7, Niall Gio another recovery in P9, in P8, Finn Bob in P9, and Lafitte in P10. Then it's Bobbert's typical Timmy, a Minotaur, the final finishers, and Flame, Simbarox, Lawrence, Yasir Saki, Manlike, and Nassim, the retirees. But what a race that was. The top 4, just so incredibly dominant, and they thoroughly deserved to be right up top there.
Yeah, absolutely. Lifeboat, pretty much from probably once he got probably about lap 10 or so, he really just held the lead from that point onwards until that final chicane in an excellent job from the McLaren driver. Those top 4 were in another league today, though, in terms of pace. They were they were so good and they were so quick. It looked like they initially got the gap from those collisions in that first chicane, but then they just kept adding to it, and and it was an excellent drive from all 4. However, Lifeboat taking that victory, I kind of probably jinxed AGK because I said he was going to win quite easily, but finishing P4, not a bad job from the RB, but it's a very, very good race overall.
Yeah, very, very good race from all the top 4 in general. And, very, very good race from our championship leader, Max van der Geest, showing that why he is the championship leader. And, he will take a 40-point lead if no penalties are applied and no penalties are taken off. He will take a 40-point lead into round number 9 of 10 of this season. The only ones that we've got left are Austria and Sao Paulo. 2 great tracks to finish us off. And the season ends in the correct place. January 23rd for the lower console tiers. January 24th for this one. Make sure to join us for that. But also make sure to join us for Austria, where Max van der Geest, the most consistent driver by far, the leader of all of the championship leaders, the champion of champions, as I dubbed him earlier, Max van der Geest, he could seal it out in Austria. By the way, if you're interested, my tier, PC tier 5, is the championship leader. There is the one with the lowest points tally. That is Ariane Sanger on 93. So much closer in, well, much lower points tally in that one, much more open. But then this one, it's just been all about Max van der Geest so far this season, and he wasn't able to take a victory today. He's actually dropped off the podium for the first time this season because of that lap 1 collision. So very, very unfortunate for him. But I mean, the fight back was a fight back of champions, and so he will thoroughly deserve it if he's going to head out of Austria the tier 2 champion.
Yeah, he certainly will do. He's had such a good year, considering that 5th place was his lowest finish after what would not to no fault of his own, an abysmal start to the race. To finish P5 is an excellent job from him. So congratulations on that recovery. Who has joined? I don't know. So it's a very good job from him. Shall we get since Niall's here? Shall we get a little bit of an interview done with him?
Yeah, I think we should actually. I think firstly though, I'm going to move him back to the waiting for interview, because then we could talk about his race. Just not what he would have wanted down in P. I've moved him. Not what he would have wanted in this race, dropping after lap 1 and staying down out of the points. I think he ended up finishing P11 if I remember correctly. But now I will drag him in, and hopefully he's going to give me more than Nox Desiree gave us in the Tier 7 race that me and him commentated together on just a few weeks ago. So now, how... I mean, talk me through that one incident. What on earth happened?
I'm going to be honest. I arrived into whatever coordinate it's called, turn 3. Just went into the back of Max. I think I broke maybe too late, but Max is claiming Alpha broke very early, and he actually went into the back of Alpha as well. So that caused a chain reaction behind. I know a few people behind also got some front wing damage, which meant they had to make a pit stop, of course, in lap 1. So yeah, it was just a massive chain reaction.
Yeah, I mean, no, go on, Jamie. You go.
Finish.
You go.
So with that in mind, after happening in lap 1, what was your mindset going from that point onwards? Did you have a strategy in mind for that, or did you? And how were you able to recover that and get as close to drivers who didn't have that those issues with damage? How did you just get your mindset in the right place and just manage it for the rest of the race?
Well, I knew from practice I had quite superior pace in race trim. So I knew if I could just get myself... So I pit lap 1 then, go on medium. I know medium's the best because obviously I can't be on the soft. Well, I can be on softs. And I don't really... I've gotten over hard, obviously, so it's mediums. So my mindset is just really... I need to now recover the maximum possible with the least mistakes that unfortunately didn't really happen. But yeah, I mean... I knew I was fast, so I was like, okay, let's just work from here. Let's do as much as possible to get back in the points. And that happened. Unfortunately, that came with a 3-second time penalty, which did cost me P6 after quite a few mistakes in that turn 3 and 4 section. Obviously, a lot of people probably got track limits from that as well. But yeah, I mean, I was just very focused throughout the race, working as effectively as possible with some drivers to get back and close as possible to the train.
Yeah, we saw you working together with the likes of Max van der Geest early on in that stint. Did you just drop off from him in there, and then you ended up actually having quite a good fight with the lower echelons of the points? Did you just drop off from him? Was the pace that he was showing just that little bit too much for you there?
Well, obviously, he had exited the pit lane at about 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 seconds, if I'm correct. So, and then I think at the end the gap was 2 point something, 2.9, I think, when I pitted. So, obviously, he had some superior pace. I mean, he's a very good driver. That's why he's leading a championship by so much. I mean, he's just been unstoppable all year, and that's the first race he's really been stopped. But I mean, he still made an insane recovery, though. I'm not gonna lie, his pace was superior. Maybe not his strategy, but his pace was very, very good. So, yeah.
So, on the actual note of strategy, can you give us a bit of insight on that? So, did you guys go for very different tyre choices at the, like in terms of when you first pitted, or did he push his tyres too hard, or was he not, or were you just too very conservative with it?
I pushed so we both pitted to mediums. I pushed quite, I wouldn't say a lot, but I wouldn't say I didn't push either. I still pushed on to try and close that gap as much as possible to the people still who haven't pitted and who were fortunate to get through that one incident. But yeah, I mean, Max is, of course, he's a very good driver. He doesn't make much mistakes. I made a few mistakes, definitely, especially in that hairpin. I noticed he's a lot faster than me in the hairpin, so maybe I'll have to take a look at that and how I approached the hairpin. But yeah, I think he was just faultless on that medium stint, to be fair. And while I did make some mistakes, my pace was still good, so can't really complain much about the medium stint. But then you mentioned strategy. He did a second stint on the mediums, which I decided not to do. I decided to go on the hard tyres, you can see, and that paid off at the end, because not only did I get a nice undercut on him, but then I was able to stay with him, and because the tyre wear difference is so large and so massive, then I was just able to, you know, have some superior pace at the end, and that paid off.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Noah, for joining us this evening. I won't move you because I think the chinwag is about to happen. But thank you to those of you who've joined us for today's stream. It was probably one of the more interesting races of the season in terms of the actual results themselves. But as you can see on your screens, 2 rounds of the season to go. So make sure to join us next week where a champion could be crowned in Austria. But until next time, it is goodbye.